my amazing viewers. Thank you so much for joining me on my program once again. I appreciate you wherever you are connecting from. If you have not subscribed to my channel, please kindly subscribe to my channel. Click the notification bell so that you'll be notified each time I upload a video. You will be among the first to receive it. Thank you so much and remain blessed. Whenever you look my video, whenever you watch my video, share the video to all platforms. Share it to family and friends. Share it in your WhatsApp group so that people can get information on what is happening in the contraption called Nigeria, mainly against the Biafrans, against the Duduas, against the indigenous people in the contraption called Nigeria. I try as much as possible to set the record straight. I don't preach hate speech. I don't speak against people. I set the record straight. The only important thing I do here is to make sure that the plight of the people remains on the front burner and the world will know the true story of what is going on in the contraption called Nigeria.
Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. The National Bureau of Statistics has just released some figures about the Nigerian economy. The major one that caught a lot of people's interest is the inflation figure. Things got bad in the past few months, and perhaps the projections are looking good in the past few months until the January and February figure came out to clearly show that things may not be going well. The inflation figure that has emerged now shows that the inflation from January, it's come from 15.60% to 15.70%. It does mean a lot of things. That things, prices of things, the price of commodities in the market. One of the reasons, of course, is the issue of fuel, which of course implication is on food prices, transportation, and a host of other things. Our friend here at FDI has helped with some of these figures then and now. From 2020 and 2022, everything is in the red, and how prices have shot up. So let's get insight into this. I'm being joined now by an economist, Mr. Muda Yusuf, who joins us from our Lagos studio. And here in our Abuja studio is Alhaji Yabaji Sani. He's the chairman of IPAC and the national chairman of the ADP. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me. Sure.
Let me begin with Mr. Yusuf tonight. Did you see this coming? There are projections and predictions about the inflation figures, which naturally were said things will get better. But from January and February, it was a dramatic change in things. What really went wrong?
Yeah, thank you, Sheung. Well, this did not come as a surprise, because if you look at the scenario of inflation over the last 1 year, the situation has been really very, very bad. And if there is any major worry for the citizens and for businesses at this time, I think it's about the high cost of goods and services, because of the very profound implications that these things are having, both for the welfare of the people and, of course, the prosperity of businesses. So it has really been bad. Now, the inflation figure, we had 15.70 headline inflation. Core inflation was around 13.7. The food inflation was slightly over 17%. But if you look at the reality of prices on the ground, mind you, these are year-on-year figures. If you look at the reality of the prices on the ground, and going by even the data that you just displayed on the screen, if you look at the basket of goods that the average Nigerian is consuming, or the basket of products that even businesses have been using, over the last 1 year, you'll be talking about an inflation rate of between 30 to 100%. It's as bad as that. I mean, talk to anybody, talk to any citizen, whether market women or any investor. So it's really very bad. And it doesn't seem to be abating. So that is where we are. Of course, there are stories about the energy prices. There are issues around our foreign exchange, the currency depreciation. There are issues around the transportation cost. There are issues around the insecurity affecting the agricultural production. So these are some of the key issues of concern. But really, I think we need to declare an emergency as far as the cost of goods and services are concerned. Inflation rate of 15.7% is understating the matter when we look at the severity of the impact of the high cost of goods and services over the last 1 year, I would say.
If you look, let's look at the pictures again. Some of these indicators. And of a major concern is that of the power and the national grid. If you look at it, in 2020, we calculated about 5,340 megawatts. But as of now, it's 2,000 megawatts. Terrible. I mean, the grid has collapsed several times. If you look at the arrow pointing, 63% in the change, just in less than 2 years. If you look at diesel, which is a major issue also, 190 naira to 650 naira. In fact, it's even more than that. In some places, about 700 to 800 naira. Some people say they buy it. It's over 242%. Petrol, 145 and 165, 14%. Bag of flour, and one of the major food consumptions on the table of many Nigerians, 8,500 naira. In less than 2 years, it's gone to 22,500. 181% change in that is gone terribly bad. Oil price for the $3 and $103. I mean, this should be good news in any case, because that is our major earnings for the country. But Mr. Muda, give us a sense of the first 2 or 3 items that I mentioned here: the issue of power, the issue of diesel, and petrol. If these continue, what are your biggest fears?
Yes, the challenges around energy prices, of course, is one of the major drivers of inflation. Now, the cost of diesel, at least by recent accounts, has gone as high as even 700 naira per liter. So this will further put a lot of pressure on prices generally. First, we have the factories and businesses that rely on diesel generators because of the power situation. This is going to increase their cost of production. It's going to increase the operating costs. And of course, it's not in all cases that this cost can even be passed on to consumers. So both on the consumer side and on the investor side, everybody is taking a hit. You know, and of course, there is also the issue of transportation. Many of the trucks that move goods around the country, whether they are moving raw materials, they are moving food products, all these buses and all of them, all of them are running on diesel. So if you have this kind of almost 200 or 300% jump in the cost of the basic fuel that they use, you can imagine the implication for transportation costs. And we have known that over the years, the cost of transportation is a major driver of food inflation. So this, again, will affect the cost of food. Invariably will affect the poverty situation. It will erode purchasing power. Then, of course, you know the situation with the aviation fuel. This is also affecting aviation fuel. Only recently we were told that the 1 hour flights will be minimum of 50,000 naira. Now that we have seen this kind of sharp increase in energy prices, what is going to happen? And you heard the screaming of the airline operators about their capacity to continue to sustain their businesses. So all of these are very disturbing situation. And concerning petrol,
so
although
before I come back to back to Abuja studio here, I'd like to ask you a quick question, because that will be bothering a lot of the minds of people. What has gone wrong in the last 2 years? What did the government do wrong that has caused this dramatic change in the economic indicators?
Well, a number of factors. Some of the factors are external. Some of the factors are also domestic. The external factor, at least the most recent, is the Ukraine-Russian crisis, which, of course, has affected energy prices globally. And unfortunately, because we are not refining, and that is where the domestic angle of the problem is, we are dependent 100% on the importation of petroleum products. So as these prices go up, and because this diesel, aviation fuel, kerosene, gas, they are all in the deregulated space. So as crude oil prices increase, the prices of all of these items are increasing. So we are paying a very big price for the mismanagement of our domestic oil and gas sector, for the failure to reform the sector, for the failure to allow investment to flow into the sector over the years. That is the price we are paying for now. So that is the situation. Then domestically again, we have the challenge of Forex. Because even for the individual companies that normally import some of these products, whether diesel or aviation fuel, access to foreign exchange is a big issue. Many of them are not able to access foreign exchange, to the level that they need to import significantly. Many of them are falling back on the parallel markets to source foreign exchange at 560, 570. So again, that will reflect on the price of the products. So the foreign exchange situation is also contributing to this problem. So it's a question of the way we have managed our oil and gas sector that led to the collapse of all the refineries.
All right.
That has obstructed investment in the sector, that has led us to be a major importer of refined petroleum products. That is the tragedy that we face at the moment. So these are the principal
Let me come
factors.
Thank you, Mr. Yusuf. Let me come to Abuja studio and let's hear from energy and a crude oil expert, someone who has worked with the NNPC for years. Is also the national chairman of IPAC, Alhaji Abaji Sani. Give us a sense of what is happening. I mean, the queues, diesel, price of diesel, and all of that is explaining in part. But the question is, how do we get out of from this problem?
Well, Shehu, there are a lot of problems, like you said. There are structural problems, there are human problems, there are management problems that have bedeviled the development of the oil and gas sector. And lack of accountability, I think, is at the bottom of everything we're talking about. Because look, for instance, let's take, for instance, what is happening today. Why are we where we are today? Why do we have this crisis in the supply of fuel in the country? It's because somebody somewhere deliberately, swindled the country by importing foul fuel into the country, and nobody, to my knowledge, has been punished. It is not as if we don't know who these people are, because we know.
Has the government come out with the names of these people?
The only entity that imports fuel into this country today is NNPC. Private sector is not allowed to import.
So you think NNPC is behind all of this?
Certainly they are, and the only agency also that is responsible for checking the specs, that is the quality of the fuel that we are bringing to the country, is government agencies. You have the midstream and downstream regulatory agency. What were they doing? Government also has employed people that are supposed to be inspectors. When this cargo comes into the country, they're supposed to take a sample of the cargo, take it to laboratory, and analyze it, ensure that it meets the specs that is suitable for consumption before you are allowed to be discharged. So what happened? Why did all these things fail? And why is somebody in the same country, somebody would have resigned by now.
Or somebody be sacked and prosecuted.
Somebody would have been sacked, for probity, for accountability. But here you are, your people, are coming to television, praising themselves. And it's such an embarrassing situation we have in this country. That is where we are today. When you look at, I'm talking about a structural problem in the oil and gas sector, like the gentleman from Lagos has said, is because we fail to manage this God-given, asset that would have taken this country miles, away from where we are today in terms of, our development.
But people say that sometimes when there are problems, it benefits some people. The Ukraine-Russia problem should have been a benefit for Nigeria.
Certainly.
In the real sense, because
it's supposed
now,
to be.
the problem of shortage might be because we don't have cargo coming into the country bringing those fuel.
Exactly.
But if we were producing locally,
we
would have gained from the price of crude that got
But nobody has been held accountable for all these things happening. And this is the point I'm making. Look at even the quota given to us by OPEC of 1.8 million barrels per day. We can't even meet that quota. And look at what happened. Just recently, in the papers, the Auditor General said about 107 million barrels of crude oil is missing. Nobody's held accountable for that. I'm aware that this is something that is happening. So if you want to know why are we where we are today, I think squarely it's at the doorstep of the government, because this is not a sector that is anyhow.
All right.
It can be managed.
Our friends at Financial Derivatives did a bit of research for us when we're going to discuss this matter, which should give Nigerians some perspective. I like those indicators, the 10 leading indicators to be put on screen, and I like your reaction to it. If you look at it, even the price of sardine, the fish that is canned, has gone from 200 naira to 600 naira. That's a 400 naira difference just in 2 years. Cooking gas, a major problem, 3,500 to 8,000 naira. Rice, 25,000 naira to 30,000 naira. Fertilizers for farmers, 5,000 naira to 16,000. When we wonder what's happening, because we have production of fertilizer locally. So what is going on? We have production of rice locally. Why has that incremental change happened? Inflation, 13.20% from 2020 to 2022 to 15.70%, 2.5% difference just in 2 years. Naira, the parallel market, it now goes for 582 naira as we speak, compared to 365 naira in the past 2 years. So if you look at it again, the power sector, the diesel, the price of petrol, the price of the bag of flour, the price of oil price, everything is not in favor of Nigeria and Nigerians as we speak. Can you talk to those figures, please?
Well, the figures are the way they are. In fact, care is not taken, they will only go worse. Why do I say worse? Because the government is supposed to take care of all these things. Unfortunately, the oil and gas sector is in the hands of the government. And then this government, to me, is not yet really has not summoned the capacity, if there's any at all, to deal with these problems. And that's why these problems are going from bad to worse. So the point is that whatever happens in the energy sector has multiplier effects, on all other sectors of the economy because of the backward and forward linkages that other sectors have with oil and gas sector. That's why when the price of petrol goes up, you find that transportation will go up, that diesel price goes up and things like that. But like I'm saying, there are fundamental issues which we are not addressing. This is why we are having these problems. If government has taken time to really deal with the corruption that is in the oil and gas sector, because energy sector in all ramifications, whatever how you look at it, everywhere in the world, is what propels development of the country.
Prices in Russia, for example, Russia supplies about 40% of energy to other parts of Europe and the world. But now it's a major, and the world needs to rationalize it.
Exactly, and that's why Biden could not, introduce. The sanctions they wanted to introduce because they see that on the other hand, there will be the worst off.
Just for a moment, Alhaji, let me go back to Lagos and let's look at solution. I'll come back to you to ask the same question, Mr. Yusuf. If you were the president with your economic knowledge, how do you turn the tide or the end of the figures that are moving in a bad trend? What would you do immediately to stop this bad trend?
Well, a combination of propositions. First, the foreign exchange policy needs to change. Because in all of this, and this is not just only about the oil and gas, the fact that we have the kind of structure of foreign exchange market that we have today is a major factor in all of this problem. Of course, I've mentioned the external factors around energy, the disruption in supply, and all of that. But the foreign exchange policy has a systemic effect on practically all sectors of the economy. And to the extent that we need foreign exchange to be able to solve some of these things. If the foreign exchange situation is not right, and just as I said, those who need to import are having challenges accessing the market. There's a lot of rationing going on in the official window or the foreign exchange market. So the first thing to do, and that is also reflected in the National Development Plan, under the macroeconomic strategy, is a top priority, is to have a flexible exchange rate regime so that the foreign exchange market can be a lot more liberalized, there could be a lot more stability and transparency, and access and liquidity will improve. That is one. Secondly, we need to decouple the energy sector from the bureaucracy and the politicians. What we have had over the last 2-3 decades is that this very critical sector is being driven by bureaucrats and politicians. That is why we are where we are. And each attempt that was made to reform the sector, to decouple the bureaucrats from the system, has been met with a lot of resistance, both from some vested interests and also from labor.
Mr. Yusuf, yeah, it's unfortunate. Let me ask Mr. Yabagisani the same question. What do you think is the solution is?
Well, the solution is both macro and micro. At the macro level, we must, like he says, address the issues of the foreign exchange because it matters a lot, and that is why even the import, because we import everything that we consume, including fuel that we're talking about, where there's a lot of scam, and you go to the foreign exchange, management by the CBN that to me, I don't know, this is not the forum to talk about that, but I think the CBN should be more engaged in managing our monetary policies and issue of pricing, but they are not doing that in the manner that is supposed to be done. So issue is that of micro aspect. The macro aspect. Micro aspect is that NMPC, although it's defunct now, should be managed in a way that Nigerian economy should derive the benefits that is in that sector because of its linkage with other things, like I keep saying, with other sectors of the economy. So my solution, and what I think the president should do, or we need to do as a nation, is to ensure that foreign exchange, management is in line with the demands and supply, not in the administrative manner that is done today.
Thank you so much, Alhaji Yabagisani, and Mr. Dr. Muda Yusuf, the CEO of the Center for the Private Enterprise. Thank you so much for coming tonight on the program. Maybe a lot of Nigerians, as we speak, are watching their television, powering it with a generator, and perhaps not add electricity in a couple of days. We hope that things will get better.
Thank you so much for your patience to watch from the beginning to the end. I hope you have learned something from the video you have just watched. The video you have just watched is to bring information to your doorstep and for educational purpose. It is not to demonize anybody. Let us watch continuously and see who can be able to make a sense out of every nonsense we are seeing. We must continue. We move. It doesn't matter what they do. It doesn't matter what they say. They will kill us. We will kill them. At the end of the day, Biafra is here. Thank you for watching. If you have not subscribed to the channel, please kindly subscribe to the channel. Click the notification bell so that you're notified each time I upload a video. You will be among the first to receive it. Thank you and remain blessed. Bye-bye. See you again.